Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our team call. I'm excited to have everybody here. And for those of you guys taking some time for the recording, thank you for taking the time. So it's a new month-ish in a sense that it's only the 9th. And when the month starts kind of like it did on a Tuesday, I feel weird. I feel like I can't officially say it started last week because it didn't start on a Monday. I don't know why. But we are gathering tonight with some exciting things to share. I want to just give you a couple updates before we officially kick off. Make sure you take some time. I did a video yesterday to kind of give you some focus for the week and the weeks to come, as well as take a look at the team header for dates of important things that are coming out. So Monday the 14th, the 30-day breakaway workout sneak peek releases. The program itself doesn't release, for coaches exclusive is October 5th, and then for everyone else it's October 19th. But I wanted to make you aware of it because it's something you can start breadcrumbing about now. Now is a time where people kind of start to get, well, at least for me, when it's not as hot outside, I've noticed in the past when I would reach out to people to work together, a lot of times I'd hear like, I'm doing a couch to 5K. So like this is the time we have something to offer because this is more than just running. It's also cross training and nutrition and support. And I'm in the works right now of opening up. We're going to have a group that's going to be like a runner's club that we'll call it. So anyone who's doing their 30-day breakaway or training for a race can join that group. We're going to run it with Steph Cram's team. So it'll be a larger group. So stay tuned for the details of that. But launches sneak up on me. So I want to tell you, start looking at it now if you're interested in this program. If you're not interested in this program, then don't worry about it. But I'm starting now because it'll be here all of a sudden. The other thing is that the completion pack and the BOD challenge packs as of today now include both nutrition programs. So that's a huge value add to have. So make sure you utilize that when you're talking to people and getting them connected to the tools. The other important information is all in the header of the team page or in the announcement section. So just make sure you go check it out. And our team reporting from last week is up there too. So you guys, I'm really excited tonight to have Sarah come and speak. And she's coming in a little bit of a different capacity. So I'm going to just share a little bit before I let her kick things off. So Sarah has been taking some steps towards mindset coaching. And as of this month is stepping into that as a kind of full-time capacity and doing a little bit of a back step with the Beachbody side of things. So you'll still see her here because she's a part of this team and in her challenge, journey. But tonight she's coming as a guest to share with the stuff that she is doing. And I was really praying about tonight before she spoke, like what to say to intro. First off, you guys know Sarah, so I don't need to tell you who she is. But to share a little bit, because in my family growing up, there was this weird thing where when change happened, no one ever talked about it. And then everyone would try to figure out what was going on with the change, and then it felt weird. But in our team, I want to celebrate change. And this is coming from a person that doesn't like change, but I'm learning to grow. That Beachbody has given us a gift. And I feel very blessed in the Freedom family to have a vision that God gave to me. And every single one of you, whether you're here tonight on the call listening to the recording this week, or you've joined this team later in the year and you're listening, has a piece of that vision and a purpose in that vision. And for some of us, that's going to be like long-term growing and building the Beachbody team. And for some people, like with Sarah, it helps you to pivot into another piece of the puzzle. And we support everyone no matter what it is. And so I'm really excited tonight because one of the things she's teaching on is something that we have leaned in and learned from our mindset coach, Brad Bizjack. And it's going to help you with serving your clients. But I also think it's going to help you understand sometimes why you get tripped up. When Brad taught it to me in a call, I was like, oh, and even through this navigating of this shifting around with the team and like last month shifting around with losing my friend and like other things going on that have been just challenging for me, it's made me have to shift through the 6 basic human needs that she's going to talk about. But I wanted to just share up front, like, and be like, just open and kind of vulnerable. I was reading my devotional, and it talked about when you feel intimidated, it's a time to be intimate, like ask for intimacy with the Lord. So I was praying, and I just want you to know, like, as we grow as a team, you will be given a vision it will be laid on your heart. It's like Habakkuk talks about. You write it down, you speak it out loud, and you give people the grace to run. And sometimes the Lord surprises you and says, yeah, but guess what? It's going to look a little different than what you imagined. But what I've learned is that it's always better. And so I just wanted to just share that tonight, because not everyone might, when things happen and things change, I just want us to always feel as a team, this is a safe place to talk and a safe place to navigate changes and to support one another in our journeys. And I also want to encourage you that this is why it's important to have a vision, because you really want to make sure that you can discern where God's calling you, and don't limit your vision to what you're capable of. Release it to be open to what God's calling you to, something you can grow into. I still have that bubbles and families and dancing and streamers and all of that for our team. And he keeps showing it to me in different ways. And sometimes it's surprising me, and sometimes it's like a little shocking, and then I have to trust, right? And that's part of that, one of the basic human needs that you're going to learn about. So I'm really excited to have her tonight to come speak and to teach. And I hope you have a pen and paper ready. And I hope I did not completely just swipe you, Sarah, with that intro, but go ahead and take over.
Yeah, no, it's great. And no, you just get me all emotional before I have to talk and sound put together. But definitely have pen and paper, because I'm going to give you some things that really blew my mind the first time I heard them. And it's funny because when you start learning something, and I always start to pay attention when I hear the same thing or the same type of thing from more than one place. And so if somebody recommends a book and then another person recommends the book and then another person is talking about the same topic, I'm like, okay, God, I'm choosing to see that as much of a flashing light sign as I'm going to probably get in this lifetime, that this is something I need to pay attention to. And so Kelly and I and Angie and a couple other people in different capacities have all worked at different times with a mentor whose name is Brad Bizjack. He does a great podcast, puts out a lot of really good content. And he follows a lot of what Tony Robbins teaches. And so it's funny because I was digging into some things that I was learning, and I came across this concept in a YouTube video that Tony Robbins put out. And so I highly recommend looking into it more and learning more about it, because I'm going to kind of give you an overview. But my goal tonight is to give you a little overview and then to target it towards how it can help you on your personal journey and also in your business, right? So I'm not going to spend an hour teaching you and walking you through all the exercises of all of this, because I think I can give you an overview. You can fill in the gaps with a YouTube video, or I can tell you more about it another time. And then you can really start using it tonight. And as you're planning what you're going to post, or how you're going to invite, or how you're going to share, or frankly, how you're going to show up on your own journey tomorrow, right? So make sure you've got pen and paper. And I wanted to ask you, the last time I spoke on a team call, I taught you guys some body movement things that you could do to get in state before you spoke to somebody or got on a call or anything like that. And I mean, did anybody do them before they got on their call tonight, or do you remember what they were? If you haven't, I would recommend you go back and look at other team calls, because the last time I spoke, it was last month, I taught you what I do before I speak to somebody, even on a one-on-one call. It's good to do before you do your power hour. And we all laughed, and I got out of breath, and it was kind of silly, but it teaches your body that you're about to do something different. And you can go from mom mode into work mode, or you can go from nurse mode into coach mode, or whatever it is, from closing up the chickens to learning a new skill. It just gives your body something tangible and something physiological, so that sitting down on your couch to work your business is not the same as sitting down on your couch to watch a movie. And that has an impact on the way that you talk to people. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back and look at old recordings of team calls. I mean, it's not that old. It was like last month. And if you were on that call with me, you don't have to go back and mimic exactly what I did. You just have to do something to get your body and your mind in a new place. So like Kelly said, I'm Sarah Kroger. I know everybody who's on this call right now, but in case you are watching the recording and you're a new coach on the team, this is me. I am a mom of 6 and I live in Northeastern Ohio. We homeschool, we homestead. I also have chickens and goats, and I listen to most of my personal development while I'm milking my goats in the morning, which is always fun when I get to talk to people. If I listen to their podcast, or if I get to talk to the person I was listening to, I always like to tell them that I was milking goats when I learned something from them. But tonight, I want to teach you this concept that's had a massive impact, primarily on how I view myself and what I bring to the table in everything, in my own mind, in relationships, and how it translates into business, how it translates into how I serve clients and how I serve potential clients. And I talked some about this. There's a couple of you who listen to the podcast that I do. Thank you very much. It's called The Purpose Project, and it's on iTunes. And so if you've listened to the latest episode, you're going to hear some of this again, but I'm going to go through it because it benefits us to hear it more than once, and not everybody has listened to that. So I'm tailoring it tonight to you, and particularly how it can help you while you're working through your journey. So this idea, to the best of my knowledge, came first from Tony Robbins, but I won't swear to that. But I've heard it taught by different people. But it's this concept of human needs. And Tony Robbins teaches that there are 6 human needs. They're not wants, they're not preferences, and they don't vary. Everybody has them. Everybody has the same 6. Now, how you meet them might be different. How you meet that need is different than how I meet that need. And which of the 6 is the most important to you might be different than which of the 6 is the most important to me. For example, one of the 6 human needs is certainty. You might get certainty by maintaining a certain bank balance in your account. You feel certain as long as that dollar amount doesn't drop below a certain level. You might feel certain knowing that there are particular people who are praying for you on a regular basis. If you know that you have somebody who's regularly praying for you, that provides some certainty in your life. Or frankly, you have a rockin' chore chart and you always have Taco Tuesday. You know what I mean? That provides some certainty in your life. It's something that you can always count on and doesn't change. And that's one of the needs, and just an example of how it might be manifested, I guess, in different ways for different people. But everybody has that need to some degree. And then a confession of mine, when I was looking at this and the way that it impacted, I realized where I was placing emphasis was at odds with the person that I wanted to be. And the reflection, the time that I took to reflect on that was really significant. Because another one of the needs of the 6, I'm going to give you all 6 in just a second, but another one of the needs that is there is the need for love. But love is scary and risky and time consuming. And so a lot of people, particularly in this day and age, will settle for connection instead of real love. And I realized in my life over the last 6 months, I realized that historically I had been settling for connection because I had been hurt in friendships in particular in the past. And so I'm a good speaker and introverted, and I really hate small talk. I get really uncomfortable in a group of people, even if it's a group of people that I know. Like if we, like the however many of us are on, 12 of us who are on this call right now, if we were all in a room together and we were just chit-chatting, I'd be like sweating. And I know all of you, right? So I can sit on Kelly's back porch and have a comfortable conversation. But when I go on retreats, even if I want to go, I'm excited about it, and I really want to be there, I would totally be knitting. I would totally, or holding to my baby or something. Like I would hide behind my babies, because then if I was uncomfortable in the conversation, I had an excuse to look away. right? And that kept me from building good relationships with people because I could meet the need for connection like this. I can talk to you. I can get feedback from you because you're nodding or smiling or leaving something in the comments. So we can feel a connection, right? We can do this and feel connected and feel like we had a shared experience, but there's no risk in it for me emotionally. You see what I'm saying? And so I realized over the last couple months when I really have been digging in and learning this, that I was robbing myself of real love with other people because I was settling for connection, because I was good at getting connection like this, right? And so I tell you that just to share that when I learned about these things and when I dug into them, it really changed the way I viewed myself. And I spent some time, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an assignment at the end. I spent a little bit of time digging into each of these and the role that they played in my life and which one I wanted to be the most important. So this is where you need your pen and paper. Here are the 6 human needs that every single person has. So like I said, number 1 is certainty. Everyone has a need for certainty. They need reliability. That's why we talk about being a creature of habit. That's why you have a side of the bed. That's why when you walk into a room, you have a certain seat you sit in. That's why you have a certain cup that you like to drink out of. I don't know about you, but I drink coffee and tea, but not in the same mug. And I have a particular type of jar, like glass, that I drink out of. And I'm unhappy drinking out of the other ones. Same water, all drinking vessels from my home, but I like the wide mouth jars. I'm unhappy drinking out of the narrow mouth jars. Why? Because it meets my need for certainty. And it makes me happy. And why does it matter to you? Because I'm the one who's drinking it. But really, at the end of the day, it's kind of like my kids and their favorite color plate. And I look at them and I'm like, listen, there are people who didn't eat it all today. You can eat off the green plate, right? Because it matters, because it meets that need for certainty, okay? The second one, however, that we all have is a need for uncertainty. We all need some variety, because if you could predict anything, everything, and you always knew how it was going to go. It's funny, the first time I heard this, the person who was presenting it was talking and saying, you know, if you always knew what was coming next, I'd be like, that would be glorious. Because guess what I value way high at the top of the list, right? That need for certainty. But even I would get bored. Even I want to get out of the house sometimes. Even I want a little bit of variety in my life. And I go crazy and drink out of the narrow mouth jars. You know what I mean? Like, you just, every once in a while, and now some people have a great need for variety and great need for uncertainty. Those people are not me. The people who like to make a list and then not do anything on it, that's like that little cry for uncertainty. I've made my list, but I'm going to rebel and I'm not going to do anything on my list. Because you need that uncertainty, right? Or the people who wake up and they're like, I'm not making a list. I don't ever make lists. You know, it just, when you start listening to people, I don't ever give any really wild examples because I'm not a very wild person, but you know people, when you start thinking about it, you know people who really have that need for variety. The third one is a need for significance. I'm going to try to explain this a little bit because the first time I heard it, I misunderstood it a little bit because it's going to sound like significance, and later on we're going to talk about contribution. They're connected, but they're not the same thing. The need for significance is the need to be seen, be noticed, and to matter. And enter social media. You know, we're taking pictures of our food and posting it for the world to see because it meets that need for significance. If someone else sees the trip you went on or sees the cool chore chart you made and is impressed by it, it scratches that need for significance. even the most painfully shy people who do not want to be in the spotlight or have anybody point them out still want to be known, still want to be seen, still want to be understood and feel like they matter. And that's that need for significance. Number 4 is the need for love. And if you remember at the beginning, I said that sometimes people will settle for connection. And it could be as a result of woundedness. It could be as a result of a great need for certainty. And really being vulnerable and exposing yourself to someone is very risky or feels very risky. And I don't know if you guys, if you don't follow Brene Brown or listen to her or read her things, do it now. She has a documentary on Netflix that is phenomenal. She's got loads of TED Talks, which is phenomenal. She's written all kinds of books, which are incredible. You can't go wrong. And she just started a new series, like a new season of a podcast. I listened to the first one today. She makes no punches. Brene Brown. She pulls no punches. She's very straight and to the point. But she talks about we all want trust in a relationship, and we think that we have to have trust in order to have vulnerability, when really it's the opposite. We need to have vulnerability in order to have trust. And it can be in an intimate relationship, or it can be in a business relationship. You have to trust the people that you work with. Your clients have to trust you in order to share what is have you noticed when you talk to people about health and fitness, it's not really about losing weight. It really is about wounds in their lives. That's why on The Biggest Loser, there's always this big emotional connection scene where they talk about the troubles of their childhood, right? It's always a piece of the puzzle, and the people that you work with have to trust you. But you have to understand that someone who is coming from a place of woundedness might be on this number 4, they might be a little reliant to be vulnerable and have love. They might be really guarded in that and settling for connection. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to do anything about that, but being aware of it makes you more compassionate and understand where they're coming from. And it also makes you, if you understand where they're coming from, you can meet them there. You might have to give a little bit more in the vulnerability side in building that trust. You might have to give a little bit more in the sharing of your story in order for them to connect with that. Does that make sense? So those first 4, certainty and uncertainty, significance, and love or connection, are the needs of the ego. And that doesn't mean like egocentric and selfish. It just means the needs of self, right? And the last 2 are classified, I was taught, as the needs of the spirit, meaning more like going out and being outward focused versus inward focused. So those first 4 needs are what I need internally to feel comfortable, or what drive me internally. And then the other ones are more external. So number 5 is the need for growth. And if you think about it, everybody thinks that their happiness is a couple of steps past the finish line of whatever their goal is, whatever their race is, whatever their target is, whether it's a target weight or a target rank or a target, like an objective at work, or if it's studying for a test as a student. Everybody thinks that their happiness and contentment is just a couple of steps past that finish line. When in reality, you finish and you feel good, and you should, because you worked very hard to get to that goal. And then instead of just now I'm happy forever, you feel something missing. And we all know this, we've all experienced it, but the reason for that is because what you need is growth and progress. You need to have goals. You need to be able to measure growth and progress. You need to be able to show yourself that you are making progress. And you need to have something, because we all are attracted to the carrot. that's dangling ahead of us. What that carrot is might be different. Some people are attracted by shiny things. Some people are attracted by attention. Some people are attracted by a number or a dollar amount. What that thing is might change, but we are all motivated by that finish line to some extent. And so you have to have those things, and it gives you something that you can concretely respond to. But the real driving force in that is your need for growth. And so if you can remember that and congratulate yourself along the way, and also set your challengers up that way too. So that's why in To Be Mindset, it's so incredible that she talks about every 2 pounds, celebrating every 2 pounds, because that's growth, that's progress. And sometimes you need to train your people to recognize that. That's why Kelly has the gratitude every Thursday. No matter where you are in your business, you have something to be grateful for. And you need to train yourself to recognize that and kind of self high five and pat yourself on the back for that. And then number 6, the last of the 6 human needs, is contribution. This need, most people have this, I want to give back, or I want to pay it forward. Someone smiles at you and you smile at the next person. And that's a great example of this. But it's really just as simple as when something exciting happens, if you're in your house by yourself or just with a bunch of kids like me, and something exciting happens, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to tell somebody. You want to share it with somebody. And you want them to be excited too, because sharing it with someone who is also excited adds to your experience. It makes your experience better. Everybody loves a shout out. Everybody loves, even if they get embarrassed, they love to be recognized. They love to be seen. And when you have a shared experience with someone, it enhances it because you have that need for contribution, bringing together that experience. That's just why something is better shared with a friend. That's why we have that social piece to our lives. And it can become super, altruistic, where people's desire to donate or to build for others or make someone else's life better and help them in some way. That also is that need for contribution. So I want you to ask yourself, when you look at that list, when you look at certainty and uncertainty, significance, love, growth, and contribution, which 2 kind of jumped out at you as I was describing them, as you were looking at them? Which 2 kind of jumped out at you as ones that were important to you or stuck out the most to you in your life? And you can share, or you can just star them on your page. It's up to you how much you want to share. It's always better when people share because we get more out of it. Love and contribution. When I first started this, my 2 that popped out the most to me were certainty and contribution. Significance and contribution. It does not take knowing me very long to know that certainty is very important to me. And I get uncomfortable talking about uncertainty. But it was very telling to me learning about myself when I was in a small group with other people, and we were talking about ways in which we meet each of these needs in our lives. Because if you can meet 3 or 4 of these needs with one action, it becomes like an addiction. Or a habit is a nicer way of saying that. You know what I mean? And if you look at this, like robbing a bank will meet a lot of these needs. I'm not recommending that you do that, but what I'm saying is you can meet these needs in a positive way or a neutral way, a fairly neutral way, or a negative way. I can get a lot of certainty and uncertainty and significance and connection robbing a bank. It's not positive, but it works. And the reason I give that example is because when you look at it from somebody who has behaviors in their health and fitness that they can't seem to walk away from, and they know they should, understanding these needs is a window into why they can't let it go. And we've talked before about self-sabotage. We've talked about fear of failure and fear of success and all of those things. Those are all components. This is another tool that you can use when you're helping somebody. Because if you're looking at somebody and they might be self-sabotaging when they're about to hit a big goal because it's certain. And they're afraid of the uncertainty of who they will become when they hit that goal, even if it's a goal that they want. They know what it's like to fail at hitting that goal. That's certain to them, and they value certainty highly. Or if you have someone who values uncertainty and they're all over the place and you can't seem to get them to settle on anything because they need so much variety in their lives. They value that variety so highly that they can't even commit to a program because that's too straight and narrow for them. So the second question that I was asked in all of this, well, in terms of significance to me, the first, which ones pop out at you? And like I said, mine were certainty and contribution. I really like to connect people. I like to connect people with each other. I like to connect people with solutions to their problems. I like to connect people with sources for their food. I like to connect people. It's always been something, it brings me great joy. If someone says, hey, Sarah, do you know someone who? That's like my favorite question to be asked because I love having that impact in their life. I love being able to really genuinely connect them with a solution to their problem, right? It makes it that fills me to no end. And yeah, there's a little bit of ego stroking because I was able to do it, but they probably could have Googled the answer too. Do you know what I mean? So like I got to play a role in that and I love it. That brings me so much fulfillment. But the next question that I got asked was, what am I giving up in order to meet those needs? And it's not always a tragic thing, but you only have so many hours in the day and you only have so much energy and you can only put your focus in so many places. And it is okay for me to have a great need for certainty. But I told you a little bit at the beginning. Do you remember when I was talking about what I gave up in terms of love because of my need for certainty? That I was sacrificing building a real loving connection with people because I placed so much emphasis on certainty. And so we could get into in another call how you, I don't mean manipulate in a bad way, but like how you can use these things to create change in people. There are some exercises that you can do to use these 6 needs to create change. Because one thing that I learned when I went a little bit deeper into these exercises, I was sharing with some other people and I had loads of ways listed that I meet my need for certainty because it's really important to me, right? I had like 5 ways that I meet my need for uncertainty. I had a really hard time coming up with examples, positive or negative. And when I was sharing in a small group, the people who were listening were like, why do you have such a hard time with that? I'm like, I don't know, I just really don't like uncertainty. And they're like, you have 6 kids. How do you know? Like, that is uncertain. And I was like, oh, it is? Like, that's not, doesn't feel really, because in my mind, uncertainty equals reckless, right? Uncertainty equals dangerous. And in my world, I mean, I guess, yeah, right. I guess there are some people who might view having 6 kids as reckless. I don't know about dangerous, but like, I mean, I guess it's dangerous to anything nice in my house sometimes, but like, it's not, I didn't view it that way, but it gives you an insight into someone with no kids, how they would view that life. Certainly damaging to my sanity on some days, yes. You missed the chat when you missed the live call. So when I tell you guys these things, I want you to think about those two things. I want you to think about what's most important to you, which two stood out the most. And then I want you to ask yourself, what is it costing you for those to be the most important? And where would you like your focus to be? So I made an intentional decision about, I guess 3 months ago now, that I was going to shift and lead with love. And I was going to be less concerned. I was going to choose to be less concerned with how people viewed me, which is all wrapped up in my certainty. I was going to be less concerned with both significance and certainty, and more concerned with love and leading with genuine love, not just connection. Now, I'd love to sit here and say, well, it changed everything, because it really did. It really did change everything. But I still don't get up and dance in public. I did for about a month, and then that kind of crept back a little bit. I was like, yeah, it's a little more crazy than I'm willing to do. I'm going to go back to, I don't know. I don't have very good crazy examples. I'm not a very crazy person. But I started to think back on my life and say, I really did have a lot of uncertainty in my life over the course of history, for lack of a better word. Like I graduated from college and I joined the Peace Corps and moved to Africa. And I came home from that and I taught for a couple of years. And one summer I spent the summer in Thailand volunteering at a wildlife rescue center. And they were incredible. And it gave me this like, okay, I have this in me. What happened to it? Where did it go? And what do I need to draw out again? And it gave me really good insight into myself, but it also gave me really good insight when I'm talking to somebody else. Because I can know my husband, and he has a bigger need for uncertainty than I do. And so if he's the one planning versus me, neither of us are happy, right? Because I want everything all planned out and he wants to plan nothing. But it helps me understand where he's coming from. And it also helps me serve him better. So I can push myself in certain areas because I know that it's something that he values, right? And when you combine that with what you know about temperaments and personalities and all those kinds of things, it just really helps you understand people better. So I want you to think about yourself, but also think about your customer. And when you're talking to somebody, whether it's a challenger you already have or it's a prospect, I want you to think about when you get an objection, what need are they trying to meet? So let me ask you this, and there's more than one answer to this question. It's the beauty of individual humans. There's only 6 human needs, but everybody values them differently and meets them differently. So if you have somebody whose objection is money, what need are they probably focused on? Anybody got a thought? If you have somebody who's, Allison said certainty, I would say certainty. It might not always be that way. You might have somebody who comes into it and has a different need. But for a lot of people, we've talked about this before, that when they say it's too expensive, it really is because they're doubting either their ability to execute or their ability to commit, or whether or not they're going to get the results. And that really does speak to this need for certainty. So it could be a true financial hardship, but it's probably not. Typically, it's probably not, because they spend more money on dumber stuff on a regular basis. Even the people who will tell you, I literally have $45 in my bank account and need to buy groceries, or I have no money until payday or whatever. Even people who look at it and they see that dollar amount going down and down and down in their bank account, they still probably spent more than $160 on dumber stuff over the course of the month, right? They probably dropped that, on Amazon or at Target without batting an eye and couldn't even tell you what they spent that much money on. Probably. Not everybody, but probably. And that's the benefit of you knowing a little bit more about them. But when you're talking to somebody and you can say, they have a need for certainty. So somebody, if you're willing to unmute and talk to me a little bit about this, if you have somebody whose objection is financial, and you have identified that they are this need for certainty, how could you talk to them with the need for certainty in mind to work through that objection? Does anybody have any ideas? I promise this is not rocket science, and there's not only one right answer.
Sorry, it's really loud over here.
That's okay.
But would you bring up the money back guarantee?
Sure.
Would that be a route to go?
There's more than one answer to this. Yeah, because whatever your answer is has to be motivated with meeting that need for certainty. So you've got a money back guarantee. You can show them other pictures of people who've gotten the results. So if they're worried about spending the money and wasting it, then you're talking about a money back guarantee, or you're talking about putting their focus on something that they can control, right? You can control how many times you work out. You can control how many nights a week you eat dessert or go through a drive-through, right? So yes, money back guarantee. Yes, results from the company. But you also need to get them thinking about them in that situation and what they can control. Because I don't know about you, me coming into my health and fitness journey felt very out of control. And I'll admit, I am still in a season of trying to figure out what in the world is going on with my body. And it feels very out of control. And it feels very uncertain, which makes me very uncomfortable, right? And that's when those old habits of self-sabotage come in, because at least that's familiar and I can count on it. I know how crappy I'm going to feel after I eat X, Y, and Z. And even though it's self-sabotaging, it's certain. And so what you can do is get them thinking about what their life will be like in this new direction, using things that they can control, right? I can't promise you if you do this, you'll lose 5 pounds in the first week. So I'm not going to promise you that. But I can promise you, remember, one of those needs is growth and progress. So I can couple your need for certainty with this need for growth, and we can talk about how will you feel when you have done 3 workouts this week, replaced one soda every day with water. How will you feel when? And set that expectation up in their mind. And use all of these things. So when you have somebody who needs that, when you hear that, what are some other objections that you get from people? Money is usually the biggest one because it's an easy one. And it never really means money. Well, I can't say never, usually. Okay, time. Great. So thinking of 6 human needs, when you have somebody who says they don't have time, you could spin this. We could probably do I don't have time and talk about it in light of all 6 of the human needs, right? It applies to all of them. But let's talk through this. If you have somebody who has a an objection of I don't have time, how can you, in light of the 6 human needs, talk to this person? And then we'll do Angie's too, because that's a good one. So let's workshop this. You have somebody whose fear is time. Because if you go at it completely logically, and you say, well, everybody has the same 24 hours, they will immediately be like, well, my situation is different. My situation is different. I really don't have time. I frankly love it when people tell me they don't have time. And I'm like, really? Because I have 6 kids and I milk goats and chickens and we homeschool and I run a business from home and my husband travels. And so let's talk again about how you don't have time. Because again, it's never about that. Yeah, Megan, I think you're right. I think for that one, the significance and that their own self-worth is part of it. And it says in the comments, they don't feel worthy of being on their schedule. And that's what you keep in mind when you're talking to them, right? That's when you start talking to people about you can't give what you don't have. And you start asking them hard questions. Why is it important to you to do this? So in the chat, Angie said she is someone who doesn't want to fail again. She sent her 3 carts and she keeps telling me how scared she is. Because she knows what it's like to stay where she is. It's like the kid getting negative attention. I never understood that when they told us that when I was getting ready to be a teacher before I was a parent. And they're like, you'll have kids who will act out and be bad just to get your attention. And I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But it is so true and not limited to children. Like grown-ups act like idiots just to get your attention because they'd rather have your negative attention than no attention because they don't feel significant. They don't feel noticed. They don't feel important, right? So this person who you sent 3 cards to, what were you saying, Angie? Go.
So would you say that's significance? Or is it certain? Like, I almost think it's certainty because she's so scared that I've been talking to her for over a year and a half. And she finally said, okay, I'm ready. And then I gave her the cart and she's like, I don't want to fail. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to do this. And she just completely shut me down for over a month. And then I sent her another one and she's done the same. And I'm just waiting. I just sent her a cart yesterday. I'm waiting for the 3rd cart to go through.
Right.
And I'm like, I'll be with you. I will walk with you. I will stand here with you. My group will surround you. You will have support. And that's really all I can do. Like, I can't do the workout for her. I cannot put the food in her mouth. I can only give her the tools and send her the carts and hope that she does it.
No, I think that what, Allison?
I was just going to say, I mean, I would tell her something like, what is the absolute, without going into this frame of mind, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you don't succeed at this. But if you don't try, you'll never know, you know? So let's give it a good try, a good college try here. And I'll be here to, like you said, walk with you. But if you don't try, you'll never know. And what if this really is the answer for you, like so many others that I know? No.
And we've already experienced not doing this. We know how that goes. You know, what do you want that's different? But your original question, Angie, yeah, I think that the I don't have time is some significance. And I think that your girl who doesn't want to fail, I think that's some certainty. And then in the comments, it says, can love be self-directed? Absolutely. Because I think that's a piece of it too. That it's I don't know this person, but I'll bet you this person would lay down in traffic for someone else. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, this woman I'm talking to?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She has a bunch of kids. She takes care of them. Like, she is constantly taking care of everybody else and not taking care of herself.
So she's not motivated to make a change for the sake of herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
right.
Like, what are you teaching your children? You're teaching your children that at some point you have to, in order to be a good mom, you have to give up on taking care of yourself because you can't do it all, you know, like, because the other things are too important. And so I want to be really clear and say that there is not, here's the objection and here's the need and here's the words you say, right? Because we all know, you don't need me to tell you that it's not that cut and dry, right? Because this is all interwoven and it is all case specific, and like you have no idea, like people share a lot. That was when I was a new coach, the thing that shocked me the most is how much people share about their lives and their deepest fears in the midst of buying a challenge pack or not buying a challenge pack, right? The goal in this is for you to start thinking this way and try it this way. Okay, is this, I see a pattern. Is this a need for certainty? How can I talk to this person and meet that need for certainty a better way, right? Because the person who's a smoker is probably better at breathing and relaxing than the rest of us. Because what do when they get stressed? They go outside and take a bunch of deep breaths away from whatever it is that's stressing them out. If you, in the midst of being really stressed, went outside and took a bunch of deep breaths away from whatever was stressing you out, you'd feel better too, right? But we got to think about it a new way, and we got to meet that need a new way. So when you're talking to somebody, because we all want there to be like, here's the magic phrase you say to somebody and it's all better, right? That is 100% what I want. And actually I was having that conversation with my husband at dinner. I was like, I'm having this problem. What do I say to make it better? And he's looked at me funny and I'm like, I know that there's not an answer to that.
I mean, that's the same with food. It's the same with the workout. It's the same with you trying to figure out your nutrition and your all the stuff that's going on and what's going on with your, like, that's right. That's the one where it's easier to just eat the junk rather than eating the healthy food, because when you eat the healthy food and then you still don't get the results and you still have an upset stomach and you still don't feel good,
mind-numbing.
It's like running your head into the wall.
Yeah, it is.
And I totally get it. And so for her, like, to not join is like, well, I already know the devil I'm with, rather than finding out that this isn't going to work for me and I don't want to fail again.
Yeah, and like Jennifer said in the chat, you can never go wrong with good Brene Brown teaching. When you start talking, like her teaching on vulnerability, I've just started getting into her teaching on shame, and it is like gold.
Right.
And
you should look at some of that.
Yeah, there was something that I listened to today that I don't want to get off in a tangent about, but it was phenomenal.
I know.
But yeah, I definitely think the verbiage by Brene Brown is good. But I think that what makes you more effective is not necessarily having the exact right thing to say, but having an understanding of where they're coming from and a heart to serve them in the need that they are trying to meet. And anytime that you can get someone to think about what their life will be like when they make this change and envision it and create a pull toward that, and what their life will be like if they stay the course and create some aversion from that. So pain is a more powerful motivator than pleasure. It just is. That's why people will abuse drugs and drink themselves until, that's why rock bottom is a term, because people won't make a change until they have hit a pain point that is so bad they're willing to move away from it and look for something new. That's also why people get halfway through their journey and lose steam, because they're no longer at their worst. They're no longer at their rock bottom, and they don't have anything that powerful to push away from. So if you can create for them a push away from and a pull toward, that's a powerful combination. So, the last thing I wrote in my notes, it's going to feel like a little bit of a jump, but it kind of brings it back together. The beauty in all of this is that you are a product of the product and that you are on your own journey here. And the more that you can understand what got you to the point that you are, what got you to the point that you said yes to make a change, and what your journey has been like over the course of time, the more that you can serve other people in that. So the last thing I wanted you to think about was what needs have been met for you through the programs and the team. If you start thinking about what of your needs have been met, how has following a program, excuse me, how has following a program and being part of this team met your need for certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution? Sorry, I can't read and talk at the same time. So thinking about that, I know that feels like a kind of random thing to say, but it is all tied up in your tasks that you can work through. So I'm gonna go, there was another question in the comments that says, what about the fight, flight, fright, faint response then? Won't some people crumble in pain under the response? I think, yeah, and then Kelly said that creates great content. Yeah, your social media content can come from that level. So the question about people's fight or flight response, I mean, I think you have to be gentle with people's hearts. And you kind of, that's why you have that forming process and getting to know someone. But I also think if you ask open-ended questions and you just keep asking questions, you're not the one who's painting the picture for them. They will go, you can push them a little bit. And I know that you've seen me do that. And some people respond to it better than others. But in my experience, the people who have not responded well to me asking tough questions have been people watching, not the person that I was talking to. So typically your conversations aren't going to happen publicly with an audience. So like, if you're talking to someone and you're asking them, what will this look like if you, and you're holding on to that, then when you're reminding them, you're using their words and their image. And then in the other direction, even if we use the example of Angie's person, like, we know how this goes. We know what this looks like today. What will this look like in a year if nothing changes? What will this look like in 2 years if nothing changes? If you keep going down the same road, and you asking the question and letting them supply the answer versus saying, if you do nothing, this will happen. It's not necessarily going to hit them the same way, because what you come up with is what would bother you versus what's going to bother them. And I think that you can move a little more gently in that fight or flight situation. But you're also welcome to unmute if I didn't answer your question and you want to ask it more or ask it in different detail. I think that you guys are all good at your jobs and you talk to people well. And when you are leading from a genuine place of service, you are going to be sensitive. Even if you say something dumb, the person who you're talking to is hopefully built enough rapport with you that you can say, I didn't mean to upset you. I'm sorry if I did. Can we back up a little bit? But I'll be really honest that I can be pretty tough sometimes when I'm trying to get to a point with somebody. And the only negative pushback I've had in that regard has been from somebody who watched me do it versus the person that I was talking to. And like Kelly said, you can always ask permission. That's true too. But I think what you're doing is you're asking the questions and letting them supply the content of the vision. You're not painting the picture for them. Does that make sense? So that's what I've got for you guys tonight. I think that at the end of it, we can talk about how to use this to handle objections, and we can workshop, and we can do what we did tonight where, you know, people are offering different ideas about it and coming up with really great ways to talk to people. And really, it's always good to hear how somebody else would handle that objection. because that's how you learn. And someone else hears something because they're not caught up in it like you are. Because it's an emotional thing for me when I get all the way to the point of sending somebody a cart and then they don't go through with it. Like, I can tell you all day long, oh, it's not about you, it's about them, it's not about you, but it still hurts because you have invested in that process as well, and you really do care about their progress. You're not just selling a used car to somebody you're never going to see again. You really are invested in their progress, and you really do believe that you have a solution that can help them. And so when you can have somebody else help you with it, I think that you can get some good perspective. But at the end of it, this isn't meant to be a cookie cutter. If they say this, then you say this, and that always works, right? It's meant to be some introspection for you so that you can get to know your own self and your own journey and remember where you came from. And like Kelly said, that's good, like content. You can reach people by reflecting on where you came from and what needs are being met by the team and by this experience. And it can help you when you ask yourself, even just the question, because asking your brain a question starts to flood answers. And so if someone is giving you an objection and you want to beat your head against the wall, even just asking yourself, what need are they trying to meet here? What need is not being met? And how can I meet it differently? If they have this need, how can I meet it differently so they're having their need met and are a little more open to trying something new? So that's what I got. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask, or you're welcome to message me later and I can answer them there too. But that's what I got for you tonight.
No, this is really good and really helpful, you guys. I think that by understanding these needs, you can grow in confidence in your ability to help people. You know what I mean? And also understanding them in yourself so that when you have off days in your business, you don't overthink it and think it means that your business sucks or you're not good. Right. Like, it just helps you realize, like, oh, I had this happen today. It's because I really have a need for this. And then figuring out how to meet that need. You know what I mean? And sometimes, like, the need is met by messaging a couple coaches to hop on and work with you so you feel connected, because maybe you just felt isolated, you know, or hopping on working out with some of your challengers or whatever that is. No, this is really good. And something I feel like it changes. Your needs change and people's needs change, you know, but it is good for content. When you weave these things into your social media, then people are already thinking about them when you're messaging them. So then it's not foreign to bring it up because they see you talking about it. So it's a great way to kind of open that door for them to think differently. You know what I mean? And telling, and Angie and I are reading Stories That Stick right now, and we're working on how to use this and weave it into a story is like the perfect combination of how to serve people really well. And then paint a picture for them. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, Sarah. This was really helpful. And I can tell just from the chat, you know, so many good questions and things. And if you're listening to the recording, please post questions. You can post them underneath this recording in the team to get feedback and tag Sarah, and, you know, we can help. But this was good. And I like how you said, like, there's not a cookie cutter answer for an objection, but empathizing with it. Somebody talked about being an empath. Like, that's why saying, like, I know how you feel. I felt that way too. Is it maybe because you failed before and you don't want to again? And just asking a question like that, someone can be like, oh my gosh, yes, let me tell you. And just let them talk, you know what I mean? And, but then to say, like, but what I found was this, you know, and that's where your story really does help. So, or if you don't relate to their story using someone else on the team, well, let me tell you about this coach on my team and her story. Like, she's a mom with a ton of kids, and she felt that this helped because of the time, and that, you know what I mean? Like, that's why it's good to be on these calls, because you get to hear one another's stories and go into like different things we have. So thank you so much, Sarah. I'm going to close us in prayer and then let us all go to bed. I'm tired. It's been a day of driving here. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for our time together tonight, Lord. I thank you for Sarah and the time she has spent with us tonight to pour into us. And God, I just ask that you would teach our hearts how to serve, and teach our hearts how to trust that you have given us all the tools we need in our story to serve the people you've called us to help. Lord, I pray that this month you would lay on our hearts those that you want us to reach out to offer support and encouragement to invite to be a part of this journey with us, and that you would help us to use what we've learned tonight to help those we're talking to find strength and confidence to break free from whatever it is that's holding them back from their goals, and help us to breathe that belief onto them, and to share that belief that we have been given as coaches on this team, where we've shared that with one another. Help us to speak life over others, God. Help us to share our story in a way that inspires people to change. God, we surrender to you our businesses. We thank you so much for the gift it is to be a part of this community. We thank you for all that you are doing and will do. And we pray for all of the things we carry within our hearts, Lord, all of our worries, our fears, and also our gratitude and thankfulness. And we just ask that you bless all of it, Lord. We pray for those that couldn't be on the call tonight, those that have sick little kiddos or having tough days, that you would just give them some rest and help them to have a refreshing day tomorrow. And I thank you, Lord, for this team, this family, and the way that you continue to provide and lead and grow us, both in number, but also emotionally, spiritually, the way you grow us into walking each day the way you've called us to walk. And I just thank you so much, Lord. We pray all of this in your most holy name. Amen. All right, you guys, have an amazing night.